Smoking, grilling, getting hot and hotter, sous vide and chilling from fire and water.
Welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I'm Darren, I'm your host, and today we got a real special guest, Diva Q herself, Danielle Bennett. Danielle, welcome to the podcast, and thanks for joining me. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Danielle Bennett, also known as Diva Q, and I am in Central Florida, originally from Canada. I've been down here for quite a few years now, and I'm a professional barbecuer and pit master.
So you're from around the Toronto area, correct?
Yep, originally from Toronto.
How long have you been in Florida? Because I'm from upstate New York myself, but I've been down in Florida since 1979, so I'm pretty much a Floridian.
My parents had a place here since I was 2 weeks old. I'm now 46. I moved here officially, though, 6 years ago.
Gotcha. Yeah, I kind of moved down. I was still like 15 years old, but I still got a lot of, upstate New York roots. So we used to go to Canada a lot. That's where we used to vacation a lot. We'd drive up into the Niagara Falls area and the encampment. And every once in a while, we'd head into Toronto, which is a really cool area. So I'm definitely familiar with that area as well, but I'm in Tampa myself, so I'm actually only about an hour and a half from you. So, I know those are two different climates, and I've grown really fond of the Florida climate. I've been up to upstate New York a few times, and I don't like the cold weather. Is that what you kind of experience yourself?
I went to college in North Bay, Ontario, which is about minus 75 in the winter, minus 45. I did that for many years, and progressively have just worked my way southern. I much prefer the warm weather over the cold. I enjoy the environment a lot more.
Yeah, and one of the best things is we get to barbecue and grill and cook outside all year long down here. So that's one of my favorite things about being in Florida. So
that actually never stopped me. There's actually many old YouTube videos up of me actually grilling and barbecuing in minus 10, minus 20 degree weather. My first rule of thumb was as soon as the driveway was done, my paths to my grills got done. And so weather never played into it, but I will tell you it's a lot easier not to have to shovel snow before I get to the grills every morning.
Well, that's for sure. And that's dedication. When, unfortunately, I remember growing up in upstate New York, we didn't have a whole lot of smoking going on. It was more, what was popular up there was just grilling. In the summertime, they'd grill hot dogs, chicken, burgers, stuff like that, steaks and stuff. But, there wasn't a whole lot of smoking going on back in the 70s that I remember. There might have been some stuff going on, but how is it up in the Toronto area? Do you have a lot of barbecue, competitions and barbecue culture up there?
Well, there wasn't as much as I had certainly hoped. There was the Canadian National Open. There was the Canadian Barbecue Society. They were definitely much smaller than the KCBS or FBA or IBCA or any of the Lone Star competition and sanctioning bodies. So one of the things is I think it's probably a very similar experience to you, mostly grilling. With me traveling with my parents down to Florida, we had, often reason to stop to go and have a pulled pork sandwich or, something else on the way down to our place in Florida. But other than that, it was probably close to just the traditional amounts of, barbecue as your experience in New York was. It would probably be very similar.
So I read your bio on your website, and it seems to me that you kind of got the barbecue bug by those trips down to Florida from Toronto that you said you stopped along the way at the barbecue pits or places along the way to Florida. So is that kind of where you got the bug to start barbecue?
I think the biggest bug for me came from actually judging the Canadian Open, and that happened in 2006. And a friend of mine, I was always an intense home cook and always cooked from scratch. I was home with my children. We have 3 children with my ex-husband, and because of that, I was probably one of the most organized OCD kind of stay-at-home moms you could ever imagine, because I went from managing 175 plus people in my profession to managing 3 little humans. And so for me, it was not much of a challenge, and I needed more to do something more. And I remember my freezers were inventoried. I had meals planned out 90 days in advance. My house was spotless, and I needed to do something more. I've never been a huge TV fan. I don't like watching a lot of TV. I'm not a big gossip monger kind of person. I don't like doing a lot of those kind of things. And most of my friends are guys because they're just easier, in all honesty. And so one of the things is that a friend of mine called me up, one of my guy friends said, there's a Canadian Open, it's a barbecue contest. Why don't you come join me and apply to be a judge? And so in 2006, I judged. 3 months later, I competed in my first contest. And less than 1 year later, I won my first grand championship.
Wow. And now how much culinary training had you had before that? You said you like to cook a lot. I mean, was that mostly just at home, or did you do it professionally at all before then?
Actually, I have double degrees. I have a degree in business administration marketing and also human resource operations management. Neither one has anything to do with culinary. However, my grandmother was a Depression era cook. There's a storm coming. My grandmother was a Depression era cook, and I learned a lot from her. Additionally, I went to classes, culinary classes, before barbecue, actually, just because I like to cook. So that was like knife skills training, herbology, sauceology, compositions, plate building, meat, butchery, a whole bunch of things. So while I'm not a paper chef, I am definitely a chef. How about that?
Well, and that's usually, if you have a passion for something, it wasn't that you wanted to make a career out of it. I guess initially it was just something that you really like to do. And that now it's kind of turned into a career for you, more fun way, right?
Well, for the last 10 years, it's absolutely been a career. First 4 was fun. The last 10 has been a career. Because if you're going to go into this and you're going to expel all that much effort, if I'm not making money, why am I doing it?
Exactly.
And if I'm not enjoying making money, it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but it has to be, something that's fulfilling and rewarding. So for the last 10 years, it's been a career. So 10 years of a career, 14 years in barbecue total.
Awesome. Well, that's kind of knocks through most of the stuff I wanted to ask you in the beginning part. So, I mean, it gives me your history, and that's great. I mean, I think I started out working in restaurants when I was young, which got me, loving cooking and food. Then I got into banking. So then, that's where I actually made money. So, but I still loved to cook, and I still, played around in the kitchen. I do all the cooking at my house, and it kind of stumbled into this, a few years back when I kind of started mixing barbecue and other cooking methods, and where the sous vide now comes into play. So now it's more of a passion. I still, try to make a little money to help pay for what I do, but the passion part is what really, starts. And if you can make money with something you're passionate about, especially, like, for instance, Malcolm Reed, Harry Sue, a lot of the people like you and others that I've interviewed. I mean, it's that passion was what catches you. It really wasn't about making money at first, but the money comes after the fact. And that's always a good thing, that you love to, if you love to do something and then you can make money doing it, go right ahead. Why not? Right.
Absolutely. It's a great idea. The only thing is that I will always disagree with people that say that, find something you're passionate about and you won't work a day in your life. That's totally crock.
You work harder.
I work my butt off. I work harder, and I cook more than just about anybody I know.
Yeah.
I cook constantly. I always am developing recipes, working with companies, and a variety of things. I never stop working. It's very, very rare for me to not be working on something, even if I'm supposed to be on vacation. I'm usually on my phone researching something or reading about something or learning about something. It's never ending to me, and that's a good thing. I enjoy it. Just because it's hard work doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
No, exactly. And like I said, the reason they say that is because you have fun doing it. You're still working hard. You probably work twice as hard. Like you said, you work twice as hard at it because you do love it so much. It's not a dredge. It's not like you're going, oh, I got to go work my 9-to-5 job or what have you. It's more of, I'll do a 12-hour day cooking or doing something like that because I love to do it. What other kind of cooking methods do you use around the house or in your stuff? Do you like to mix up the cooking methods, or are you strictly a barbecue purist?
I would say I grill and barbecue 90% of my items, I'm going to say, because even when I'm doing a baking project, it's a baking project on the grill. Even if I'm doing I've got developing, roasting bones or whatever. I'm building up a stock right now for an au jus tonight. It's done on the grill. Developing breads and pastries on the grill. So for me, it's mostly, I'd say probably a good solid 90% is done on the grill and barbecues. And although I'm solely with Traeger now, I've come from the environment, I've come from offsets, and I've come from charcoal, and I've come from other types of pits prior to this. So learning by fire first, and then, of course, having the consistency of a Traeger has made my life a lot easier. And it's opened up a lot of opportunities to experiment with some other directions. But typically, yeah, I'd say about 95% is done on the grill or barbecue every single day. Every day I'm on the grill for something.
So
It's very extraordinarily rare for me not to be on a grill.
So, do you have any other grills, or are you strictly using Traeger now? Is that something a contractual thing, or is that something that you prefer to use pellet grills only now?
I prefer to use my Traeger because I went from having 65 barbecues. Like I said, I am an actual pit master, knows how to use it all, from Southern Prides to Old Hickories to Lang offsets to, Weber kettles to, I can keep going because I had them all. My stumps, reverse flow gravities to all those different pits, big green egg, and there's no such thing as a bad pit, but there are some pits that are certainly a lot better and more consistent. So over the years, I found myself changing over more and more to the Traeger, and I'm strictly with them completely now.
So what kind of Traeger do you have? Do you have more than one in your home that you use mostly to experiment on, or?
I have 18 of them.
Oh yeah. So
I have every one of them.
Do you have like every brand, every model of them?
I have, the only one I don't have is the Calm 200, the Calm 150. Gotcha. And I had the Calm 150 before, but I don't have it anymore. It got to stay up in Canada. So yeah. So I have like Timberlines and Rangers and Pros and Ironwoods and the Pig and the Ridgelands and multiples of certain ones, and I work on them all. Yeah.
Do you find that they're, I know that one of the big things that pellet grills get a bad rap for is the grilling potential, that they're kind of, they don't get to the temperature that grilling is normally done, 500 plus degrees or what have you. Have you found that some of those Traeger models are better at grilling than the other ones, or are they all pretty much good at just knowing how to do it?
I think one of the things that people forget is that sugars caramelize on meats at 375 degrees approximately. And so you don't need a 600 degree grill to sear. You don't need a 500 degree grill. Anything over about 400 degrees, you're good. I mean, definitely the new D2 controller on the Pro, I'm so impressed with, because it gets to 500 degrees like super, super fast. So I enjoy that. Definitely there's certain things, like if people are looking for a really hard sear, there's ways around it. If you have an older Traeger, you can just put a cast iron pan on. So you can still get that, those textural, I think, elements that people love with meat, and, the myoglobin that comes to the surface and all that. I think a lot of times it's one of those things where it's a lot more gentle of a heat because of that indirect heat shield. And so one of the things that I like about that is that it always seems to keep the meat a lot more moist in general. And that's that convection style of cooking, though. For me, that's a massive bonus.
Right. And I don't get involved in the, people, you got people on both ends. I'm not one of those guys that fights, about everything, that, you got to cook over wood, or you got to cook over charcoal, or you got to cook over gas. I like different grills. I've got 6 different grills out on my patio, and they're all different. I've got, a gas sear burner on my pellet grill. I've got, 3 charcoal grills, and they're all different. I got a PK grill. So, I mean, they all I use them differently, and I like them all. So I'm not one that, we'll sit there and go, oh, you got to have this, got to have an offset, to make barbecue, or you got to use, only lump charcoal. I don't get into those kind of arguments, because I see where anything you can use you can use it to do anything you want with it. Any kind of, grill. I mean, I could probably take any of those that I have out there and do just about anything I want with it. I prefer to use different things, but for different, foods or what have you, but I don't get into that argument of it has to be this or it has to be that, or, pellet grills don't do this enough, but this one does that better. So yeah, I kind of agree with you there. If you're a good cook, and I had this discussion with Harry Sue and some others, that you can pretty much cook on anything. And
yeah, I think that there's one of the things is that is actually one of the things I actually do love about the Traeger, though. I kind of just in pellet grilling, is because some of those, intimidation factors get removed, because I gotta check temps. So see, you're in my backyard with me, of course.
That's great. I love that. So.
So one of the things is that I think I love that fact for, I think, enabling maybe people that don't have as much of a barbecue experience, or maybe not as experienced to cook, I like the fact that it gives them an opportunity to kind of like be a backyard rock star. You know what I mean? See? Backyard rock star.
Definitely. Yeah. And you know, and it takes them away from that gas grill that, you know, gas grills have a purpose, but they're not anywhere near as versatile as a pellet grill can be. So, I mean,
I kind of like that. I like that benefit of it. I really do. I love the fact that, you know, it's great if you are a good cook, and I would agree. You know, if you're a cook, like, you know, I can bake a cake on a charcoal grill, no problem. I have no problem doing that. I did it for many, many, many years. But I think a lot of people for that would be really intimidating, you know, or a 6-hour rib or a 7-hour rib when it was indirect, right? And so if you can take away those things, I think that's a good thing. I think, you know, like you said, everybody's got their own preference. I know what I you know, I just think that it's really cool to be able to do that for people sometimes.
Well, exactly. And there's been plenty of people that won, you know, barbecue competitions with pellet grills. So there's, you know, you can't sit there and say that, you know, only, you know, offset smokers will win a competition, because there's been plenty of people that use pellet grills to win competitions. I think.
Well, I've won a few, like, you know, over 400 barbecue awards on pellet grills, and, you know, quite a few grand championships, and more than a few individual world championship categories. So yeah. And there's, of course, a lot of us out there. So you're right. There is no one right grill.
Exactly. So let's go. How did you start the BBQ brand? What made you start thinking, okay, I've won a bunch of competitions, I want to kind of take this to the next level? And
actually, I did it before then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm a dedicated businesswoman first and foremost.
There you go.
My background is in business, and business first always. And so if you're going to dedicate this much resources, personal and professional, to a certain category of life, I'm going to make sure I have a business out of it. So DBQ was born many, many years ago. My best friend actually gave the company the name. My best friend Rita, she gave the name to me. We were sitting in my backyard drinking wine and bourbon. She was drinking wine, I was drinking bourbon. And we came up with the name because we were trying to figure out a company name. And I wanted it to be a really strong name. I wanted it to be simple. And I didn't want, you know, cartoon pigs. I didn't want the word smoking in there anywhere. I knew what I wanted, knew what I didn't want, and we just kind of had to figure. It was either going to be Diva Q or Maverick Q.
So is that what you started on your competition, when you started doing competitions? Or, I mean, did you start?
I started 3 months after I judged my first contest. I did a backyard contest.
So what was the first thing you put the BBQ name on? Was it a recipe, a blog, or what
No,
was
it? It was a rib recipe.
And then is that what came first? Like, you know, just started doing recipes and putting them in a blog form, or how did you start it out?
There used to be, I used to have a really old blog, and one of the things is that I knew so many people in the restaurant industry and the cooking industry already, that I was already well known for cooking in my community. You know, my friends in our community, the hostess with the mostest, because you know, they called me like Martha. Okay. So I was already there with cooking. So nothing shocks my friends when it comes to food and me. You know, my friends for years are used to coming to my house, and like nobody touches the food until I take pictures. Like, I don't even have to say anything. They're like, has she taken a picture yet? Has she got the picture? Has she got the video? Has she got everything she needs? Does she need to count any servings? Like, you have to understand, like, that came well before barbecue. You know, I was the person that always had the Super Bowl party, always had, you know, hockey championships, you know, all those kind of things. So like, none of that recipe development and stuff like that was new to me. It was just in a different format. So.
But you never did it like as a, you know, catering for other people for money. It was.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Actually, oh yeah. We had friends that were like, hey, can we please get you to cater this? And yeah, I did that as well.
Awesome. So
multifaceted.
So when you started out and you know, fast forward to now, you have a lot more platforms you can actually use, you know, to spread the word and, you know, promote yourself. How have you found your niche, or how do you found your niche and where it fits the most? Because I noticed you started a YouTube channel a few years back, but it hasn't.
Actually, I didn't start that channel. Let me make something clear. I actually did not start that channel. The company that I was with, the marketing company that I was with the show Barbecue Crawl, started that company, or that channel. So they actually put those up. So that was not me. even though it's my name. It
Did
was one of
they
our
actually
agreements.
own that channel and you can't do anything with it, or is it?
Unfortunately, they actually tried YouTube. It's actually a problem with YouTube, actually, because when the Google thing happened with YouTube and everything else in Gmail, unfortunately, it got locked down and will never open up again. And they can't seem to give us any access to it, neither me or the company I was with. Yeah.
Wow.
Unfortunately, it's just kind of stagnating there forever. And
Yeah, I was going to say, because
there's
there's some awesome videos on there, but the last one was posted
Yep.
like 4 years ago. So
Mhm.
I'm going to actually share the screen here, and then I'm going to share your website, because it looks like that's what you kind of.
I typically direct people. Yeah, that's the website. I typically direct people to my Instagram or to my Facebook or my Twitter.
Right.
But YouTube is unfortunately just a stagnant platform for me right now.
Yeah, and yeah, I kind of. They're all different platforms. And one of the things, I've had this discussion with other people who are on multiple platforms. It seems that you can't pull one from another. You know, I have a YouTube channel, and it's hard for me to grab the people from YouTube and bring them into my Facebook, because I have a Facebook page and group, and I have a really large group on Facebook, but I can't grab those people from Facebook and move them to YouTube for some reason. So all these different platforms seem, be kind of weird, that one doesn't go from, let's say, Facebook to Instagram, or Instagram to YouTube, and they're either on one or the other. They may occasionally visit it, but so this is your website, and yours is kind of like mine. It's kind of like the jumping off point. You have some recipes on there, and your blog doesn't look like you do a lot. I mean, I have no time to do blogs anymore. I try, and but
unfortunately, normally I'm traveling 275,000 miles on planes a year.
Right.
And I have to prioritize what's important to me, and fulfilling my contractual obligations is the first thing.
Right.
That's number one for me. So while I've been home the last 6-7 weeks, I have spent an inordinate amount of time on Instagram and especially Facebook.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of your Facebook live stuff while you're cooking, with that stuff. And it's especially during this time, with all the stuff that's going on, it's great to
well,
watch
we've had an
some of that.
increase. Yeah, we've had an increase of 1,644% traffic on my Facebook.
This one right now, look at that.
And we've gone up 14,000 members on my fan page, followers. And so I think that it really resonates with people that I cook in real time and I don't do staged pictures. I think it's one of those things where it's really easy to cook a steak and stage it out and, sprinkle that like cilantro or whatever you want to do in it. It's a whole other thing when you've got, an impression count. Like we did the ribs with Duluth the other week, and it was 135,000 impressions.
Yeah, that's awesome, and people respect that too. And they can go back and watch it later too. It's not like if they miss it, they go, oh no, I missed it. But I'm watching that one right now, the rib one. It's on my other screen. Yeah. So, but
and they can reference it back, and it's just me. Like it's nothing stays. There's no stylist team here. This is just real food, real time, real everything. And it's really resonated with the public.
Well, and you've explained stuff as you go, and that's the thing I like. It you're not hard to understand. You don't intimidate people, and people actually can listen to you and figure out what you're doing. They're not just I like Stephen Reichlin a lot, but he can be kind of intimidating sometimes with some of the stuff that he does, and some of the others out there. But I really like learning. I'm a visual learner, so videos, I was on YouTube before I even had a channel. Just anytime I needed to learn how to do something, I go to YouTube, because I'm a visual learner. I can't read it out of a book. I have to watch somebody do it, kind of thing. And I think that's a lot of people are like that. And they like those type of, videos where you're right there. And you can, especially when you're live, you can listen, you take their questions. I've seen you do that a lot. Watching you,
I do.
You watch the comments, and people go, I can't believe she's reading the comments while she's doing all this.
I'm very lucky. I read an extraordinarily fast rate. So one of my skill sets, actually, as just a human, is unfortunately, it also costs me a lot of money on Amazon or Kindle, because I actually read at 2 times plus the normal rate. So typically I can keep up with almost every single comment. Very rare that I miss something. And that way, I think people really like that too. And I'm totally unedited. If you've watched me, And if you ask me something stupid, I'm going to tell you something back. It's kind of who I am.
Yeah, the trolls need to stay away from you.
I don't take shit from anybody. I don't. I earn my right to be here. And that also comes with hard work and dedication and things like that. You know, I didn't come from a family of barbecue. Nobody handed me any of my career. And, you know, I've been so fortunate to befriend some of the most amazing people in barbecue. And I am eternally grateful for their assistance. But at the end of the day, drive, determination, and hard work and an ethic that has never stopped is what got me here. So.
Yeah, and exactly like you said, you know, you don't need to take crap from anybody because you've got the awards and, you know, the experience to just shut them down. I mean, most of the people that do cause problems on these the social media stuff don't know what the hell they're doing, and they just, you know, they saw a video somewhere on, you know, somebody doing something and think that that's what you have to do the whole time. I get them all the time, and I've had this discussion with some other people that do the same thing, and, you know, I just shut people down too. It's like, I don't, you know, I don't know who you are, but don't tell me one thing when, you know, just because you think you have the pulpit now because you got a keyboard in front of you, you know, you can treat somebody. Most of those people wouldn't tell you that to your face or say anything like that to your face because they probably get smacked. So it's really easy.
I think it's also that I'm female and it makes us more of a target. Unfortunately, it's still the case in this industry. It's one of those things where it's unfortunate, but sometimes it's still quite true to this day, where if I'm in a group of guys, they're never going to ask me ever.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, there's a lot of people out there like that, but like you said, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean,
it is what it is.
I think anybody who loves to cook and is passionate, you know, can teach me stuff. You know, I can learn from anybody. I don't care who you are, what you are. You know, I like to learn from all kinds of people. So
yeah, me too.
if you limit yourself, that's just like, you know, I don't know. I get a lot of people that, you know, if you limit yourself into what you do, how can you learn anything new? I mean, I love learning stuff. I mean, I've been cooking for 40 years and I still learn new stuff every day and I love it, you know? And so it just amazes me how people can get locked into certain things and, you know, they're all hurting themselves.
I often say in a lot of the lives, I'm like, there's no one right way to do barbecue and grilling. However, there's a lot of really good meat science behind some of the things I do.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's a lot of times when it comes to barbecue and grilling, and I think a lot of people sometimes forget this, is that in barbecue and grilling, it's very personal. And the reason it's personal is because a lot of times for a vast majority of people, they've learned from their grandmother or their grandfather or their uncle or their brother. And so if you tell them a different way of doing things, even though it may be, you know, a much better way of doing it or a much more consistent way of doing it, it's almost like you're attacking their family values at that point. So they take it very personally. And over the years, you know, I've really been very cognizant of that when I'm talking to people and saying, hey, I understand your grandfather must have done that, and he may have poured vinegar on everything. However, let me tell you, this simple brine will work a lot better and a lot more consistently, and this is why. And I try to always, that's something I make a very concerted effort to do all the time. Don't just tell somebody to crack open a lid of a rub, okay? So not just give them a recipe, okay? One of the things I really want to do, and what I try to do all the time, is educate people on the whys. Why are we doing this? Why are we spritzing every 45 minutes? Why are we, you know, only adding this much of this ingredient? Why, you know, this soda versus baking powder or whatever the case may be, right? And I think if you can explain the whys, you're giving them a better culinary experience in the future, because I often get asked, and I'm sure you do as well, people always say, well, can I put this ingredient in? And my answer is, it's your house. I say this all the time.
Exactly.
It's your house. If you like that flavor, then go use it. If you don't like that flavor, I'm a total heat wuss. And I always say to people, listen, there is no heat in this whatsoever, you know, or there's a very moderate amount. But if you want to go throw a whole bunch of habaneros in there, it's your house. Do it, you know, and explain the whys, you know. And so I try to provide people with really tangible things to make them understand why I'm doing certain things. Because I think it's important to understand on cell structure what's happening to meats. I think it's really important to understand on, all of those little components, why meat should go cold to the grills. There's a variety of things, but I really, really work on explaining the whys all the time.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, because I'm the same way. I don't like to tell people just do it this way because I said so. I mean, if you
Yeah.
explain to them the whys, or you even get them to ask the question of why, I try to work on people, ask why. I mean, yeah, you can take a recipe and then make it your own. Don't feel bad, if you do that, because it's your personal taste. I do that all the time. Like you said, I may give somebody a recipe, or even times and temps, especially with sous vide, because there's such a big range. I'll just say, here's a range. Now you can go home and take it and play around with it and find out what you like the best. Take this recipe, this base recipe I give you, and then don't feel bad if you tweak it, because to make it be, your personal taste is going to be maybe different than mine. So, but like you said, yeah, get them to ask the whys and tell them the whys and why you're doing stuff a certain way is always better, because then they'll start thinking instead of just reacting, right? You want them to think, you want them to learn and grow. And to just react to something and just say, well, just do it this way because I said so, they're not really learning.
Yeah, exactly. I like, there's nothing more rewarding than hearing when people have taken your recipes and cooked for their families and they felt proud of what they did. That's so rewarding to have that. And, that's why I always try to share those stories on Instagram, on my stories, things like that. And, if somebody tags me with something, I don't share all of them because I get tagged a lot, and I do appreciate that very much. But I do try to share at least 5 to 10 stories every day of people that have cooked something that I've, written, or a recipe, because I think it's important. And I try to answer every question myself personally. I don't have a team. So I think it's also good to acknowledge those people that, are learning and coming up in their own little barbecue kingdoms.
So do you still do many competitions? I mean, you still get on the circuit, or is it more you're just out there promoting Traeger, or you do a mixture of both?
Well, the fact of the matter is that Traeger's not my only client. Traeger's my largest client, but I also have Duluth. And then I have a whole roster of other clients that are very private. And so one of the things is that my time is kind of very limited to do contests now. And because of that, I usually only do 2 or 3 a year now, period. I think I did 3 all total last year. So the American Royal, of course, I am the current reigning world champion of sausage. And, we had a really good year the year before. I actually took 3 first place categories at the American Royal, which was,
Congratulations.
2 first places, and then we tied for sausage again last year. And so that was 3 perfect 180s in one day, which just didn't suck at all.
Awesome.
It's never a bad day when you're at the American Royal. and I got to do a state contest a few months back, and I came in 5th overall, which was great. And so I don't get to go out very often. It just gives them my schedule, and because of my commitments to my other clients. I transitioned out of doing 25 to 30 contests a year. That's not really my focus. My focus is on my company and progressing it forward in my own way. And I've really enjoyed that. I love teaching more than anything. It's, and the TV stuff too. Last year it was like 5, 6 programs asked me to come on, and I didn't think they were the right fit. And just because they offer you money doesn't mean it's right. And
Right.
For me, I'm extraordinarily selective because it has to be genuine for me. It really does. I'm 46 now, and I don't want to just be a reality star on a barbecue show. And if somebody chooses to do that, that's fine, but it's not me. I don't like the drama. I don't like the BS. It's just not my thing. And for me, it's been very, very, humbling experience to be able to turn down these programs, but it's the right move for me. And until I find one I feel that it kind of aligns with my own integrity and values, I'll keep turning them down. I just turned another one down last week. Like, no, thank you. I'm not interested.
Well, you got to protect your brand, because people look for you for certain things. And I've seen it too often where people they take their integrity and turn it upside down for the money. And then, I've tried to follow some people, and you're like, some of the big ones like Emerald Lagasse, when he started out, he was great. I loved watching him, but now he puts his name on everything, and it's junk. I mean, the products that I see, they just say, hey, Emerald, here, I'm putting your name on this. And, it's a piece of junk. And you're like, Emerald, come on. Your integrity is gone now when you start sticking your name on stuff that is just junk, and you try to get people people know you don't use this stuff. So,
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing for me, is that anything like, it's so funny. I was wearing Duluth clothing for years before Duluth approached me. That's a good partnership, because that's something I was already, fully vested in. Traeger, same thing. My boning knife that I use now from Victorinox, it's the same one I had 10 years ago. Like, I haven't changed,
Yeah.
My ThermoWorks, different products, etc. All the partnerships that I've had, it's got to be genuine for me, and it's got to be real. And I am definitely not in the category of just taking a check. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. Because if I was, I would probably be a lot more financially ahead than I am now. Because I've been approached by a lot of companies over the years. I have a very good reputation. I don't mess around. People know I am very well known as a very straight shooter.
Yeah.
Don't mince words.
And that's very important. I do the same thing. I have,
that's me.
I have sponsors that I, use, and, that send me stuff and that I deal with. And I'm, if somebody wants to send me something, I'll say, you can send it to me, but I'm going to be very honest. If you want me to do a review, I'm going to be very honest about it. So if it's something that, I'm not going to like, just know that I'm going to tell people I don't like this thing, and, I work with companies that I like their products, and I really, feel comfortable telling people that I like. And I like, when I do a review of something, I go right deep into it, explaining exactly what I like and what I don't like, what the benefit of that product is. And if it's a piece of junk, I can't sit there and, knowingly lie to somebody, especially people that, look to me like you, they look to you for your integrity. So it's, I can definitely understand that and appreciate that. So let's talk about your TV appearances and all that. So you've done a number of those too. How much fun are those to do? I mean, I've never been on a TV show, so I don't know, but I've seen a lot of the people that go on the TV shows, and I always think, is it actually what it looks like on the TV show? I mean, what goes on behind the scenes? How fun are doing those?
Well, I've done a lot of TV. I've done probably over 300 early morning segments on live TV. Easily 300. I've done, I don't know how many TV shows now individually, between Pitmasters and American Grill Masters, Food Network, Chopped, on my own show for 3 years on the Travel Channel with Barbecue Crawl. It all depends on the program. A lot of times there is a lot of downtime in between the segments. There is a lot of staging of things. And then, of course, if you're on one of those series, there's a difference. I don't know if a lot of people know this. There's reality game show rules where everything has to be equal and fair and above board. And, there's game show rules where everything has to be equally applied to everybody that appears on the show. Or there is the reality show where the producers can, of course, determine the outcome. And that's really important to understand the difference between those two different categories of shows. I think that the drama and the BS is just that the producers are always saying, you should go egg this person on, or you should go talk smack to this person. And, they have to do that because in order for the show to perpetuate the advertorial dollars, they need that drama to keep people involved. That's, one of the things I struggle with sometimes is that, if I wouldn't say it in real life, why would I say it on a TV show? And then, of course, the other part that's always a challenge to watch is the editing. And once you sign on the dotted line, you give them carte blanche to do whatever editing you want. You may have been a nice human for like 99.9% of the show, and you lost your cool for 0.01. You can be guaranteed they're only going to show the 0.01. And that's okay. That's their right to. That's what you agreed to. So I think that's another part of why maybe I've just like kind of backed away from doing a lot of TV, is that I had some really good experiences, had some not so good experiences. A couple of things were absolutely, and the public even screamed out loud when I was definitely screwed over on a couple of programs, and it was plain as the day. And so some of it gets very soured, and then the other part is like, do you really need it? And I think that's another thing. Do you really need that for your life? And I decided a lot of it I didn't need. How about that? And then I really, really, really didn't like what I was seeing happening on a lot of shows. People that I know personally that are extraordinarily kind humans who are very talented, made to look like absolute idiots because of editing. And so I don't like seeing that. I really don't. That really bothers me because I think that that's such a disservice to them. But when you sign that dotted line, that's what you agree to. And so if you go into that and you knowingly go into that, then it is what it is, and you signed up for it.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you keep doing it, then all you're doing is, hammering yourself in the head, right?
Exactly. So, I mean, everybody has their own personal levels that they're willing to take on. And some of us just decided, maybe not so much.
Right. Well, I'm going to share my screen one more time because I got this I want to talk about next here is your book. And I always like to ask people, because I've had several other guests on that have written books. And this is right here, BBQ's Barbecue, 195 recipes, which is actually a ton of recipes for a barbecue.
It's actually a double book.
Yeah, I was going to say, because usually, 40 or 50 is about the max. And usually like 30 or so is kind of what the average is. So almost 200 recipes is a awesome, for, especially it's the same price as a regular book. But how long did it take you to do this, and what was your experience writing this book, and would you do it again? I mean, was it anything near what you thought it would be?
Well, the book itself, the reason I wrote the book was because of a lady by the name of Jennifer Bain. She was the food editor for the Toronto Star, which is Canada's largest newspaper. And at the time, Jennifer and I had become friends, and she's just an incredibly talented writer, and she's gone on to other projects now. And she kept saying to me for years, Danielle, you need to write a book. 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 And everybody else, Danielle, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. You need to write a book. And I kept pushing back. I'm very much on my own schedule, okay? I always have been. I don't like being pushed into things. And all of a sudden, Random House started calling. We'd like you to write a book. And then a couple of other publishers started calling. We'd really like you to write a book. And so I eventually met with someone from Random House. Of course, Random House is the biggest publisher in the world.
Right.
And when they come to you, it's a little different.
Sure.
And so I went and had some really nice meetings with them, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And they, wanted certain things, the book to look like certain things, and I said absolutely not. I am a very dedicated barbecue and griller. I'm not a fluffy, frilly, give me pink, give me glitter kind of girl. I'm just not, other than lipstick and nails. My lipstick's always on and my nails are always done. Okay. Other than that, okay. I am not that girly girl. Okay. And so they wanted it to look a certain way, and I said no. And I said, wait a second, you came to me, not the other way around. I can walk away. I'm okay walking away. I've never been I think this is why I've never been a money hungry person. I'm more of an experience hungry person. I don't have a lot of money. I don't need to have a 5,000 square foot house. I've never needed like those kind of things. I like having good things, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I'm just not that driven by money. I'm driven more by experiences. And so it took a while to write. Yeah. I already had a lot of the recipes done. Random House has already been asking for the last 3 years for me to write another one. Because the book's been out for 4 years and we're still selling a ton of them, which I'm very grateful. And the reason is that it's a really good book, and I can say that with all honesty. It's a really well-written book. It was composed extraordinarily well. We did not rush it. It's for all grill types, every grill out there. I wrote it with the intention that anybody who had any type of grill could actually pick up the book and use the recipes. Additionally, it has really sound recipes, because if there's one thing also I'm known for, I don't put out crappy recipes ever. Just for example, like was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. Actually, last night. Just a simple apple puff pastry recipe that I was working through on the grill. It took me, 4 or 6 tries to get it to where I thought it should be. And I'll keep doing it until I think it's right. And I do that for every recipe. Whether it's a rub, whether it's a sauce, whether it's a glaze, whether it's a piece of meat, it doesn't matter to me. It has to be right. Because my worst fear is that I don't want somebody to go home and have the recipe not work out. It has to work out, and it has to be delicious, and it has to be great, because that's also an integrity thing.
Oh, yeah.
I could write 100 recipes in a week, no problem. Not a problem for me at all. What are they? 100 great recipes that will work consistently every time? Are they well composed? Are they well structured? Are they flavorful? Are they balanced? that's the part where that pride and integrity come in, you know, and having people believe that every time they pick up a book with my name on it, that recipe will work.
Awesome.
And that's important to me. And
Yeah.
so I'm not in any rush to write the second one. The second I, you know, like literally Robert just a couple of weeks ago, the VP said to me, he's like, so anytime you want to give me a proposal, Danielle, anytime. we're just waiting for it, you know. And so I'm slowly getting there. I'll write another book, but it's going to be a while, you know, because it's got to be right. And I don't want to rush it. And a lot of times what happens is if you're a, you know, a food celebrity or whatever you want to call us, okay, what happens is that as your notoriety goes up and your popularity goes up, I think the quality of the writing sometimes go down. And that doesn't affect like everybody consistently. So I don't want to just be a blanket cover statement on that. However, a lot of times you'll see a secondary name on the book cover, right? So you'll see the celebrity's name, and then you'll see a secondary name right underneath that. And that's like your ghostwriter, basically. And they write a lot of the content of the book because I know that all of the words in my book were written by me, every single one. And that is, I think it's 158,000 words or 58,000 words. I actually have the count somewhere. But I know every single word was written by me. And I also know that goes against every celebrity's brain because that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And in the editorial progress of working through the edits is one of the most painful things because you are trying to find as much consistency as possible throughout the book, product relationships, and certain things like even when it came down to writing the recipes for the brines in the book. Normally the publishing house doesn't want to put name brands in the book, right? So if you say kosher salt, they just want you to say kosher salt. And I had to go back to them a couple of times saying, no, it has to be this brand of kosher salt because the sodium level is this much. And if they switch over to another one, it's not going to work out as right. And I mean, having to argue those points because of it is an integrity thing for me. Like, no, it has to specify this brand. I said, and I'm literally bringing charts to them saying, no, this one has this sodium level. This, and do you see how much of a difference this makes in a brine? And I'm literally, that's how adamant I am about those recipes. They've got to be right. And so the editorial process of editing a cookbook is painful as hell, okay? I remember once when I was doing the book that I threw the manuscript up against the wall and said, oh, excuse me. I said those words. You can bleep me.
All right. I edit this thing, so don't worry about it.
Yay! But literally that's what I said. And that was an absolute, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And I can't remember. And I had a couple of the most incredible editors, and I'm so glad I had them for my very first experience because one of the ladies had already written 3 cookbooks on her own. And she literally called, was she British or Scottish? I can't remember now. Just her whole demeanor was amazing. And she goes, oh, you finally reached that point. I was wondering how long it was going to take you. Because I said, is this normal? Is it normal for me to feel this way? She goes, oh, perfectly.
Yeah. Everybody I've talked to,
a lot longer than I thought. So,
everybody I talked to that has written a book has said the same thing. The editing part is the worst because they keep coming back to you, and you write a recipe, you put your heart and soul into it, and they come back. I think it was another guy just had a not too long ago, and he said he had this seafood dish that he really wanted to do, and that's like you said, they said, this is your book, you decide on what you want in it. And they came back to him and, said, I don't want this seafood. But he goes, you said it was my book. This is what I want to do. This is my recipe. I love this recipe.
That's
and you had to fight with him about
painful.
It.
Yeah. And, one of the other things is once again, it's a bit of an ego trip. When they come to you, it's a different ball game, right?
Right.
I didn't go to them. They came to me, which is kind of nice. That's literally a really nice little component. You're like, all right, I'll walk away. I'm done.
Awesome.
I'm good. Because at the end of the day, if it's going to have my name on it, it's going to be my book. And
So
it's going to have my impact on it.
Yeah. I mean, that just shows from everything you've done and what you said from the beginning. It's you put your heart and soul into it, and you got to make sure that everybody who looks at it says, I understand that that's Danielle's, because.
Yeah. So even if you look at the cookbook, here's a funny little thing in the cookbook that makes me really happy. If you look on the pages, you'll notice that they're all gingham check. They're all color coded to the different categories. In the bottom right-hand corner, right behind every numbered page, is an icon, whether it's beef, chicken, fish, pork, or anything. The reason is I want it just to be easy for people too. Right. And so I think that approachability factor was also really important to me, to make it approachable to anybody. anybody, whether they've had a grilling experience for the last 40 years or somebody who just picked up a grill last week.
Awesome.
That's important to me.
So what else you got going on here coming up? Anything we should be looking for?
Some things I can't talk about yet, but some
Okay.
good projects coming.
So if they follow you on Facebook, though, you'll be announcing stuff on your Facebook and Instagram.
Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. You know, I'm on there every single day answering questions for people. I try to get back to people. You know, that's kind of the thing for me. You know, I once got a lecture from a media coach that I subsequently did not no longer use their services, and it's actually unfortunately more than one time I've been told it. And the media coaches, they're like, you're way too approachable. People can access you too easily. And so they tell you, you know, you're supposed to be a little more standoffish and you're not supposed to be answering so many questions and people think, you know, you're available. I'm like, I am available. And I don't want to be that person that just ignores everybody. You know, right. I don't want to be that person that doesn't help people. If I'm available and I can answer a damn question, I should. Yeah, I might not be able to get to them all, but I really try. And so, yeah, always on my own path. You know, I get to work with kick-ass, amazing, you know, people at Traeger and Duluth and my other clients that are just awesome. And we love the Traeger lives. You know, they're, you know, I do lives in I already did a live for today. I did smash burgers. Of course, today is, you know, a National Hamburger Day. And so I did a smash burger and it's already been, you know, viewed 6,000 times today, which is nice. And that was literally me just making lunch. Just normal. I'm like, all right, I want a smash burger. And here's a nice little picture at the end and we're good to go. I'm going to continue doing the lives almost every single day. I like that. I like that reaction from people, and I love sharing with people what we do on a daily basis here at my house. I think that there's lots of opportunity to keep teaching people, whether you're in a structured format or not. I've got a Traeger Live next week coming up, and that's going to be here at the house live again with Traeger grills. Another program we've got coming up is a couple other things coming down the line, and I'm pretty excited about that. So there's quite a few good things on the way. Always.
I'm going to make sure that everybody has a link to your Facebook page and Instagram and your website as well. And also,
thanks so much.
I'm going to link a copy to your book on Amazon so people can check that out. I want to thank you again for being on. Really enjoyed having you on. Hopefully I can have you on again sometime soon and we can talk about some other stuff that you're working on.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I wish you all the very best.
I wish you thanks. Go check on that meat. I got ribs cooking myself. But
no, my meat's off. That's why I had to go over. I'm like, it's resting. I'm good.
All righty.
Have a great
thanks
night.
for joining me again. I appreciate it. And thanks again, Danielle. I'll see you again on the next
honey.
Fire and Water Cooking Podcast.